message.
It's UPS system.
Alrighty,
That doesn't surprise me at all that company backed out.
I'm ready.
You're ready? You know, and it's just time to move on. You know, that, I think that's much for that system.
I'd like to call the meeting to order.
I thought they paid.
Ask the clerk for a roll call, please.
Mr. Morse,
Here.
Mr. Beggs,
Here.
Mr. Hardy,
Here.
Mr. Walker,
Here.
Mr. Erickson.
Here. Looking for approval of the minutes of April 25, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Support Walker.
Made by Beggs, supported by Walker, the approval of the minutes from April 25. Would there be any discussion? Any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Would there be any changes to the agenda we have today? Look for approval of the agenda as written.
I'll make that motion.
Made by Morse, supported by Hardy. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Public comment. Would there be any public comment at this time? Kevin? Hi, Kevin. That's Kevin Hughes.
Put him right on the spot.
He's a good. He
can handle it.
He's a good egg. Hearing none. Administrator Biard, the 3-year preventative maintenance for air conditioning, heating, ventilation, and refrigeration systems.
So we currently have a contract in place. However, the company that we have that contract with has disbanded. And so Brian put out the RFP, and the county clerk has those, the bids that we did receive. So she can open those. I don't know if you want them open now or during the board of commissioners meeting.
I
That's
think-
when
I'd say, right, we could have our discussion.
we received 2 of them.
In case there normally is not, but in case there's any questions, then, you know, that we can get the
Track them
answers
down.
on.
What company was that set up with?
There was Martech.
Oh. Oh, they did. Huh.
So this is for a total of 19,476.
Annually.
I think it is total. It says June 1, 24 through May 3, 27.
Who's that by?
This is for Anderson Mechanical.
And what was it?
19,476.
Thank you.
And it covers the period 6/1/24 to 5/3/27.
They took my jackknife to
Yeah,
the
we need our
door.
letter opener.
I need a jackknife.
Tool, not a weapon. Sheriff, Sheriff, you got anything? I got one.
There's a story behind that, and we'll talk about later.
This one is from Boardwell Mechanical. looks like. Annual sum is $19,225. With 16,741 payable on presentation of invoice in accordance with the following. And it lists the county building, the jail, sheriff's department, district health department 10, Hart EMS, Shelby EMS, and county building, county services building. $4,806.25 quarterly.
So what was the 19,225 for?
It says, for the services including maintenance of equipment covered, you agree to pay Bordwell Mechanical Services the annual sum of $19,225.
Then what was the 16?
Then it says $16,741 payable on presentation of invoice accordance with the following schedule.
So, Paul,
Yes, sir.
so it appears as one bid the 19,476 for the entire length of time, and the other one bid it for an annual.
Let's look.
Paul, do we know if Brian is in the building today?
He was when I came in this morning.
Why don't we, Paul, if I may?
Yes, please.
Why don't we have Brian take a look at this?
Yeah,
Look at these and then we maybe can have something for us for the meeting.
I'm hoping Amy finds, under this contract, whether that be annual or a 3-year deal.
It says labor and materials for 3 years. Preventive maintenance effective January 1, 24 through May 3, 27.
Mhm.
That sounds like it's over that period then.
Mhm. Yeah, if we could have Brian, I don't know how the bid packets went out, but we're comparing apples to oranges.
Okay, thank you.
Right? I mean, that's how you read that. And this one,
I could sit here and look back and forth at them forever and probably not understand all of the, the fine details of it, and Brian can he will know.
Very good then. We'll give the time to Brian. Yes,
Yeah,
Mr. Biggs.
I would say, let's throw this back out just for clarification, figure out one, the 19 versus 16,000 from Bordwell, and then clarify the annual versus the term. Are either, I've heard these names, but are either of these companies Oceana County companies?
Bordwell is out of Montague,
Okay.
and I don't know where Anderson is.
Anderson's on 64th Avenue in Hart.
Yep.
Yep, and they both did go to Brian, so, no, if Brian gave it a better look, I don't know how the bid packets went out, but this is much more complex than what we got from Anderson.
Mr. Erickson, I believe Under Sheriff Scheller just sent them a text message.
Yep, he did.
To stop by.
Thank you. Moving right along then, let's give the floor to Under Sheriff Schiller on the unlimited power supply repair.
Excuse me. Morning.
Morning.
So this proposal came to you about a year ago, and I'm back in front of you because when we spoke of it a year ago, you approved a replacement of UPS, and there was a not to exceed price of $13,000. So since that meeting, I've been attempting to have this taken care of, but the company that we initially reached out to that was familiar with the hardware, Eaton Power Supplies specifically, that were recommended for us. After a couple of site visits, numerous phone calls, and numerous emails, they just didn't, they would not provide us a time, materials, and labor costs to get the project done. So it kept dragging along, and at one point, Brian Schlock and I just said, we need to move on. So we reached out to two other companies that were both recommended to us, and I had never heard of, nor have I personally worked with Cortez out of Montague, but I called them one morning, and they were here the same day, and they provided the quote within the same week.
I'm not sure if I may interrupt for a second.
Yes, sir.
They used to be Top Rail Electric.
Okay.
You probably remember the name Top Rail.
Yes.
Well, when the dad retired, the two boys
Took it over.
took it over, and
Sure.
they changed the name, so it was Top Rail.
So these guys came in. They've been fantastic. They've just been great. Shoreline Power also came in and provided a quote. Shoreline Power, just I guess to make sure everybody's on the same page, Shoreline Power's quote of $12,000 was only for the labor and the installation. It did not include the cost of the hardware. The hardware that they were anticipating was the Eaton hardware in the amount of $8,800. So that total package, if Shoreline were to do it, would be $20,811. Just so we're comparing the right numbers. Their quote wasn't nearly as detailed and as in-depth as Cortez is. The Cortez quote is for $24,388, and then Cortez did give us options based on that base price. But the Cortez quote really is for the entire thing, start to finish, removal of the old equipment, and complete testing and everything. So the Cortez quote is the one that I would recommend. They came on site twice. They clearly understand the complexity of the project and the importance of it. The other thing about Cortez is that the current system we have now is a single phase. And I'm not an electrician, that's my brother, but I'm told that this is a big deal. But our building is three-phase. So we have a single phase UPS, but our building is three-phase. And Cortez is recommending putting in a three-phase UPS. And they said that likely at that time in 1995, there probably weren't three-phase UPSs out there, which is probably the truth. So things have just kind of progressed and technology has improved, and this is what he's recommending. If we didn't feel like the option one price that was sufficient, that gives us 6 minutes of run time. If we wanted to add an extra $2,500 to that, it would increase it to 30 minutes of run time, which is probably significant, for whatever that's worth. But I will take any direction and/or instructions you give me. I apologize that the packet or the bundle that I sent was so long. I just wanted you to have kind of all the material that I had to be able to make a decision.
Mr. Erickson?
Yes, Mr. Walker.
May I? I'm familiar with Cortez. Cortez, for years, did the replacement on lighting for airports all over the state of Michigan. And Cortez also had the contract to replace all the lighting on the Mackinac Bridge about 15 years ago or so. And if you wanted to get in some nice conversations, ask them what that was like during a windstorm. But they're a big company. When I looked at these prices, under sheriff, I remember that it was probably 8 or so years ago that we replaced this up at Central Dispatch.
Yes.
And it was more money to replace this at Central Dispatch then than what you're asking for now. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then it's been replaced once since then. I think the board did it
Yes,
since
just
then.
a year or so.
So it's been a couple times that's been done.
So the hardware that we were originally quoted by Dayton Power Supply was the same hardware that was used at dispatch, which is why we were leaning that direction. We just couldn't make it happen, and Cortez.
Excuse me, Mr. Erickson.
They seem to be very capable and able and willing to move forward quickly. There is I want to say, a 10-week lead time. 10-week lead time for the product itself.
Small, if I may. Go ahead. No, the UPS unit, how many servers is that?
Who,
Just rough estimate.
4? That's probably not a good number. It's essentially running that entire room plus some rooms up in the jail. There are a handful of outlets on the main floor that are served by the UPS on top of it, as well as some lighting. It's powering more than just the server room, but it's that room by itself with, I don't know, a half dozen or less servers down there. It's significant. It's also powering the phone system. It's powering the rack that feeds the fiber to the county services building. There's a lot to it, which just in truth, I think that room is somewhat intimidating to contractors that do come in there. There's just a lot going on.
I've worked with Cortez before, they're an excellent company. I think that the 6 minute,
Yeah.
boy, that's awful tight, because by the time those servers start to shut down, you're running a risk of, servers don't like to be shut off. I mean, just, pull the plug down.
So the only thing I would say there, I would agree 6 minutes isn't a long run time. I guess we do have to keep in mind the idea behind the UPS is that it just kind of holds us until the generator fires up and spools up, right? Now, I don't want to get into the weeds, but we're replacing the generator this year as well. That was approved, and Mr. Schlock, I think, who was in the building, we've been working. We're actually ready to pull the trigger on that in the next week or two. We've been meeting with several vendors who have come. The generator project is moving forward rapidly, so we're hopeful that 6 minutes is sufficient, right? Have we had issues with transfer switches in the generator in the past? Yes, we have. So that 30 minutes for the extra $2,500, could it be substantial? It certainly could. I don't know if we want it.
Well, but for the $2,500, I'm sorry, but if you lose any data or actually mess up any of the hard drives in that short period of time,
Yeah.
my vote would be the $2,500 would be well spent to make sure that doesn't happen.
Mr. Morris, you had a question?
Yeah, so thank you. The 10 kV lever system, that's, so being apples to apples, that's the same as the 8800 Eaton hardware, right? Those are the apples to apples there.
Yes, but the Eaton is a single phase, and the 10 kV is a 3-phase.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so it's not apples to apples. It's about the same time, but maybe the same juice, but I don't even know how to explain single phase versus three phase.
Yeah, I tried
I
myself,
apologize.
and I don't know either.
3 wires is good too.
Three, yes, that's what I said, right?
It's a 4-pronged approach.
Well, and also the 8800 for the Eaton was just the hardware, that didn't include any labor.
Correct.
So,
Has our generator spooled up of recent?
It does every Thursday.
Every Thursday
Yep,
you'll,
every Thursday it runs for a half an hour.
and have we had a necessary reason for the switch to work?
Oh, yes, here 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a short power failure, and then, of course, when I was in Costa Rica, there was a elongated power failure that caused lots of grief here.
So your service.
Yeah.
Just that.
And so what else in our building's running 3-phase then? We got some motors on,
I
some
would suspect
heaters, or
HVAC,
All the HVACs, I'm sure.
Yeah, I
water, chiller stuff.
Water chiller, yeah.
big motors.
I don't know specifically, but
But the recommendation from the city was that we do 3-phase.
Yes.
And I would have to go with Michael Schiller's recommendation there.
he's the electrician.
He is our electrician, yes.
Yeah. And I think, on the courthouse side, they're moving to replace that and move it to 3-phase for the chiller downstairs.
And
So,
that, Brian and I talked about that a couple weeks ago, and I brought it up that, I think Cortez is also looking at doing that system over
They
there.
are.
They're looking at that, but, that's gonna be more extensive because the lines coming in have to be replaced.
Yeah.
And that whole
Upgraded.
system has to be replaced though.
So, if I,
yes, sir, Mr. Hardy.
your current UPS system is not working?
It failed a week ago or 2 weeks ago now, so it's completely offline right now.
That's not good.
Yes,
I mean,
Mr.
the expense
Beggs.
overall to fix damaged servers.
Can't have this.
Nope.
Mr. Beggs?
Yeah, it's just, you know, I assume everybody's probably familiar, but one important role, not only for UPS is a power failure, but it's power conditioning. So, you know, that even though we have a generator that spool up time or even a blip in the line voltage, it's like a protection, almost a surge protection for all of those systems as well, and that's important. You know, whether it's a quick blip that would shut down everything and then require a startup or surges, or even dips in voltage, so.
Yeah, and so the way our building is designed currently, everything runs through the UPS, just everyday power. It doesn't just come on, so it filters it and conditions it as it comes through. So 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm trying to figure out how to get it off.
Paul,
Yes, sir, Mr.
to put this in importance for, the sheriff's department, they have a lot of locks at the sheriff's department that are electrically operated. That you cannot, there's no power, you can't unlock some of the doors over there. And so they have to have power, you know, and you can't be without it at all.
That's, yeah, I don't wanna
I don't
hand
wanna
over our
get into.
trade secrets of security, but that's a huge concern.
Yep. Any other questions?
And thankfully, most of the people sitting in this room don't understand and had never had to been involved with that.
It's okay.
Don't even know.
They're necessary,
Oh.
period. Yeah, not to have one right now is.
So I'm, honestly, I'll take any direction that you give me, in terms of quotes, companies and or, you know, if you wanted to add the $2,500 to the Cortez, option, to increase the runtime, fantastic. But at this point, I hate coming back after we've already talked about it once, frankly. I hate to have to come back again, but here we are.
Well,
You know,
it's understood, yes.
I would like to just recommend that we go, we need to look at future expansion or future needs too, and so they quoted the 15 KVA. It's another $6,000 plus another $1,100 to double the runtime from 8 minutes to 15 minutes. But I would hate to do a 10 KVA and then 10 years down the road go, we need another 5. I sure wish we had looked forward and done that.
Tip,
Well, but isn't all that dependent upon the size of the generator outfit? So we've limited, we just need to make sure that they made up beautifully.
Well, the KVA is going to be the service coming in, but also the capacity of the batteries. So the generator will augment that power once the generator's kicked on, but the UPS will manage that load in the meantime.
Yes.
But if we have a significant change in our HVAC systems that require more load or something like that, that's probably the largest draw. Everything else is becoming more efficient, lights and this and that, but just the possibility of expansion of that need for another $6,000 is, in my opinion, a wise inclusion.
Paul,
Mr. Walker?
I did not explain something well, Tim. Cortez Electric is out of Montague, but they're actually a man-made lake. It's a Montague address, but they are an Oceanocola business.
Okay, sure.
So, what was I say? To that point, how long do these usually last? Like, typically?
Like lifespan?
Yeah.
Well, ours is overdue. Ours has lasted a really long time. It's served us well. So the current one that just died was installed somewhere 1994-ish.
Okay, so
So-
30 years. But
Now-
we shouldn't count on that.
They would probably tell you 10 years. Our dispatches, they've updated theirs since our last quote already. So they're a bit of a different building, but
Yeah, I think that you can normally figure 10 to 15 years is when they'll tell you should recycle, but they'll last.
certainly won't before 30.
Yeah, they'll last a pretty good time. I concur with Mr. Beggs that the additional expenditure versus 13,000 that was already authorized. If you go with the 15 KVA unit and add the additional $1,100, you're looking at about $18,700 increase from the original one, and that was actually approved, I believe, last year.
Yeah.
So it would be $18,793, which I think also makes sense, because if you do increase anything down there at all, and I don't like the 6-minute.
No.
I think that flirting with disaster at that point, because at some point, even with a new backup generator, you may have a hiccup. And
Gosh, I hope not, because those are.
yeah, but that happens.
Very good. Mr. Beggs?
So they gave us this option. Did they have any type of recommendation? I'm a mechanic, I'm not an electrician, so.
So Tim Cortez is who I've been talking with, and he did recommend the 15 kV. That was his lean, just because of future and growth. If the building did do any, make any changes, he's a forward-thinking guy. Just just from my very brief knowing him, he did want to give us the option for down the road. I just knew that it was, there was cost involved. So I asked for just some options, starting with, what can we get away with right now?
Yeah, thank you. One more thing, when the old generator goes out, where will that go?
So, great question. I'm told that there is significant value to that yet. So I guess at some point, once that comes out of there, we're going to gain a storage room in the sheriff's office. So we're very excited about space. But we'll probably come and ask for approval to put that out for auction or something of that nature, because I think there's probably real value to some of the guys that came said that agriculture and such for things, whether it's wells or pivots or that kind of thing,
Yep.
They might be able to use that and have a need for it. So.
Very good.
Yeah.
I just didn't want it to end up like a copy machine. At least we entered into where
Right.
all of a sudden they're rolling our copy machine on the truck, and
Right.
all we had to do
They
is
get
say,
to sell it.
all we had to do is say, no, please leave it there, and yeah, it's an asset.
Yeah.
But if it runs every Thursday, and it's been
And it has a new radiator.
we put an
Right.
$8,000 radiator in.
And they're,
Yeah.
they're not gonna pick that old generator up and move it very easily.
Yeah.
No, but I know a house mover.
That's about what it's gonna take.
She's heavy. I think.
Yeah. Oh, thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Department head reports. Would there be any department head reports? Hearing none. Public comment? Would there be any public comment? Mr. Daines?
Morning.
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 I'm Dale Daines, and last fall, you all appointed me, not all, but you appointed me to the Board of Medical Care. And I've had several months now to try to figure out what's going on over there. I know at the time that you appointed me, you said you were aware of some issues, and there may be more issues over there than you know of, but I guess I'm here for suggestions, help. In order to make a difference, it's a 3-person board, and in order to make a difference, 2 of those people have to be on the same page. I feel as though I have in-depth knowledge of the internal workings of the medical care facility since I ran 5 departments for 35 years there. And I know a lot about what goes on there and what needs to be changed, or what has changed over the years, the last several years. And it's not for the better. The facility is going downhill rapidly. The most recent issue that we've had there was hiring a new administrator. And that new administrator, in a lot of people's opinion, is not the best candidate for the job. The one that I say they, the other 2 guys hired this guy. This guy is a friend of mine, a good friend of mine. If I wanted to be partial, I would have went right along with him, but he is not the candidate for the job. He has never managed a nursing home. I know there's nothing that can be done about this now, but I just want to let you know the gist of things. The way things shake out over there is you have 2 board members that are dictators. One is a dictator. He may be a friend of some of yours because he was on this board at a time a few years ago. And I'm sorry if I step on any toes that way, but you have to be told about the fact that Larry Van Sickle does not know the internal workings of that building at all. Finances is what they look at. They think that if the money is there, that the building is thriving, and that's not the case. When you've got residents that are not getting good care, community residents also that are not getting good care, and you've got employees that I know that it's a common thing now to hire people. It's hard to hire employees no matter where you go. But that place, people don't want to work there anymore. And that's not the way it used to be. There's a reason for the way it is now. And there's no accountability whatsoever. The last two administrators that they hired, the same two guys hired these last two administrators, were hardly ever there, 2 or 3 days a week. You can't run a business and only be present 2 or 3 days a week. When the cat's away, the mice will play, and that's exactly what's going on over there. Department heads are coming and going as they please. There's no set hours. When I asked the last administrator, the one that just retired or resigned, when I asked him, do your department heads have set hours? He stared at me like I was from outer space or something. Had no answer. He couldn't answer the question. And I asked him how many days a week is he there, and he just stared at me like he was lost. And 2 or 3 days a week, the last two administrators. The department heads now do the same thing. Come and go as they please whenever they want to, because there's no accountability. There's nobody there to ask them, you know, what are your hours that you're working today, or at any time. These things need to be changed. There's 115 beds over there, and there's only like 80 of those beds that are filled, maybe 82 right now, but that's 35 empty beds. You don't need to have an administrator that knows how to write applications for grants to make that place function. What you need to do is fill those empty beds. And there's nobody trying to fill those beds. It's not something that is done anymore, and it used to be done. We had a person years ago that went to the hospitals and talked to the patient advocate and tried to get that person, when they were discharged, to come to Oceana. But that's not happening anymore. Some means of that needs to happen. There is a change that is taking place, probably, and that is that they're pursuing to get on board with Priority Health, who is a big insurance carrier in the area for Medicare people. And in the past, they've just said, well, they don't pay enough. Well, something's better than nothing. Empty beds are empty beds. They don't pay anything. And, you know, closing out people from Oceana County who have paid taxes here their entire life and lived in this county for their entire life, who can't get in there when they need care because they have the wrong insurance company, it doesn't make sense to me. And we are moving towards that. And, you know, that stemmed from a question that I asked in one of my first meetings. Why is it that other medical care facilities can take these insurance companies, Humana, Priority Health, and be able to function with those insurance companies, but we can't? I don't know.